Hey everybody, my name is Leslie Tucker. Today I'm going to talk about Percodactylas and Atterdactylas. These are considered as your even and your odd-toed ungulants. So the first one is the Percodactyla. It comes from the Greek word persio, which means odd, and dactylo, which means finger or toe. It's characterized with them having a groove that is within the proximal surface of the astragal, which is a bone that connects to the ankle bone itself. Um, as their name, odd-toed, they either have one or three functioning toes. They're very large animals. They range from the smallest horse to your largest rhinoceros. These guys are really large. They have relatively simple stomachs and exclusively herbivores. They are hindgut fermentors. That is that they digest the plant cellulose in their intestines rather than in the first chamber or the rumen of the stomach. They play a very important role in the world as they are terrestrial food chain, though sometimes their large size and their speed does make a difference in others trying to get them. The domestication of some of these animals have actually helped with the future of today, as such as horses and donkeys. They've played a role in transporting welfare along with working for us. Rhinos have actually been harvested illegally for their horns and their body parts. It's used for Asian medicine. So you have three main groups, and it's going to be your equidae, your Tarbidae, and your rhinoceros. So your first one is your equidae. This family consists of actually the horses, donkeys, and zebras. There are about 8 to 10 exact species in this family. It all depends on the breakdown of the tax scheme. There's a horse that has once been thought to been extinct. It's called the Preswellskull horse. It was reintroduced into zoos in Mongolia steppe in the 1990s. It is sometimes considered as a separate species. These horses are actually described as small and stocky. They're heavy built with big heads, thick necks, along with short legs. They usually a dull colored with a zebra elect mane, along with having a yellowish white belly along with lower legs and zebra stripes behind their knees. These horses stand about 4.5 feet tall to about 5 feet at the withers. They weigh about 550 to about 800 pounds. They once were throughout Europe and Asia, though today they can be found introduced into sites in Mongolia, China, and Kazakhstan. These are about the only wild horses left in the world. The wild horses that are around in Australia, North America, Western Plains, and Eastern barriers are actually horses that have come from captivity, and they have escaped from ranches and farms, and then they have returned back to the wild. And this is per the Smithsonian National Zoo. In the wild, they graze on grasses and leaves from shrubby trees. They are hindgut fermenters, which means that they need to consume a lot of water and low-quality food. They usually live in groups about several mares, with usually a dominant stallion along with their offspring. There is a research program going on at the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute that's looking into the reproductive reproduction of these horses. It is very important in many zoos because they're actually reporting infertility issues, so not as many foals are actually being born. So next you have your domestic horses, is what you would consider, you would know what your horse is. There's only one species, yet there's about 400 different breeds. These horses specialize in many different areas, as far as pulling wagons, to barrel racing, to team roping, to bucking broncos, to just pleasure, overall just pleasure riding. The height of a horse is actually measured from the highest point of the withers to the bottom of the hoof, compared to how other animals are actually done. Others are done by inches. Horses are actually done by hands. So the paint horse that's in this picture, she is actually 15.2 hands, or 15.2 to 15.3 hands. And then the other horse is actually, she was 16.3 hands. So a hand is actually 4 inches. Thus, a horse described as 15.2 hands is 15 hands plus another 2 inches, and it is abbreviated H or HH for hand's height. This is from N. Singber in the 1990s. The size of the horse will actually depend on the breed, along with the nutrition in itself. The size, usually your light riding horses are actually going to be about 14 to 16 hands, and your larger horses are actually going to be about as tall as 16 to 18 hands. And then your draft horses are going to be larger. A lot of people think that ponies are actually not considered a horse. Actually, ponies are considered a horse. They pretty much are the exact same thing as the horse, minus their size. These guys don't stand very tall at all. And they usually tend to have a easier temperament than your other horses. They have shorter legs, and they have a bigger barrel, along with heavier bones, and a thicker neck. Your gestation lasts about 340 days, with the average, which is between 320 and 370 is a rough estimate. Colts will actually reach sexual maturity at about 18 months old. But depending on who you go through, some won't breed them until they're about 3 years old. Especially your females, they won't do that. They will eat around 15 to 24 pounds of food a day, and about 10 to 12 gallons of water each day. So a couple diseases that horses can actually get. The first one is West Nile. West Nile is an inflammation. Is a disease that they can get from being bitten by mosquitoes, and it affects the inflammation of the brain. They also may develop meningitis through this. Symptoms of horse that are infected by West Nile include a fever, impaired vision, head pressing, difficulty swallowing, and weakness of the hind limbs. Ideally, it is highly recommended that if you have a horse, that you get your horse vaccinated for this every single year. And especially in Texas, we have such a big issue with this that they highly recommend that you vaccinate for it. Another one is laminitis. This is actually an inflammation of the horse's hoof. Usually it is only goes towards the front, but it also usually it only affects the front hooves, but it can actually affect all 4. The condition is through 4 different stages, which include the developmental stage, your acute stage, your subacute stage, and your chronic stage. Those horses that are obese have high fevers, and that work on hard surfaces are actually considered at higher risk. And all this information is found from the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 2018. Your next one is going to be the donkey. Donkeys range in size depending on their breed, along with the management. The height at the withers is in the range of 7 to a little over 15 feet. They usually weigh roughly about anywhere from about 300 to about 800 feet. 300 to 800 pounds. Donkeys that are used to work in poor countries or underdeveloped countries usually have a lifespan about 12 to 15 years compared to those that are in higher economical status, which are those last from about 30 to 40 years. Donkeys that are used in other countries are usually used either for pulling, or possibly even getting themselves moved, or moving people around. And your donkeys that are actually, most donkeys that you find in the United States are actually going to be either with other animals. They're used as a great defense due to the fact that they will kick, strike with their front hooves, or their hind legs. So usually they'll get actually put with your with goats, sheep, anything like that. Then you have zebras. Zebras are actually known for having the distinctive black and white stripe coat. Every zebra comes in a different pattern, along with a different, and are unique to each zebra. No two zebras are actually alike. These are zebras that are you have 3 different types of zebras. You have your plain zebras, you have your mountain zebras, and lastly you have your grooved zebras. Your plain zebras are actually going to be considered as your most common zebras. These are the ones that are going to be mostly found in the United States, across the world. They're pretty much, they remain, they are actually considered, they're not considered endangered, but they are considered as near threatened. These guys usually eat grass. They're adapted for both long, tough grass stems along with newly emerged short grasses. The flexible upper lip allows them to put plant material between the incisors to cut. All zebras have a less effective digestive system than ruminants, but the food passes through twice as fast. This is from Grub in 1981. And these guys are very sociable and usually are going to be in a small group, small family. Your next one is going to be your mountain zebra. These guys have a dewlap, and they are boldly striped in black or dark brown. And again, no two zebras look alike. You'll find some difference between all of them. They live in the hot, dry, rocky mountain habitats, but they prefer slopes and plateaus. Their diets consist of tough grass. When there is a shortage, though, they will eat barks, twigs of fruit trees, along with roots. They do drink water every single day, but if they can't find it on the surface, they'll actually dig for it in the riverbeds. The last one is your Jeeves zebra. These are known as empirical zebras. These are the largest ones, and they have long necks with prominent erect manes. They can survive up to 5 days without water. 2/3 of their day is actually used for eating. They primarily graze on grass unless it becomes scarce. Then they'll actually eat bark along with leaves. For all of them, from conception to birth, the gestation period is around 13 months. They'll give birth to a foal. Very rare will they have 2 at a time. Foals are born with dark brown spots and fuzzy hair coats. By about a year old, they are completely black and they don't have any of the fuzz left. Foals can actually walk within an hour after being born. These newborns actually have the protection of their mother so that they are less likely to be a target for predators. Tarpei's is a herbivore animal, which is a similar shape to a pig, with a short nose trunk. These mammals inhabit jungles, forest regions in South America, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. There's 4 types: your Brazilian, your Malay, your Baird, and your mountain. The size of these guys will differ depending on what subspecies they are. Most will be about 6 feet long and about 6 feet tall, and weigh about 300 to 700 pounds. They are very flexible organs, which is able to make them move in many different directions. Under good conditions, a healthy female can actually produce every 2 years. From conception to birth, like your zebras, it is 13 months. Their lifespan is about 25 to 30 years. They frequently live in dryland forests. You also have the family Rhinoceratidae. There are 5 subfamilies that are in this. You have excuse me, white rhinoceros, black rhinoceros, subterranean rhinoceros, and the Indian and the Javan rhinoceros. The differences, a lot of them, it's their size. So your white rhino, there's no real reason that they're actually called the white rhino. The only difference that they can think is just from they are a lighter colored skin, along with a little bit of like a whitish color around their face. They weigh about 4,000 pounds, and males come in about 5,000 pounds. They have 2 horns. The front horn is actually larger than the back horn, and the horns stand about 59 inches for the larger ones, and then the smaller ones are about 35 inches, so really big. They have front, broad mouths that are used for grazing. Then you have your black rhino. These are the difference between them. There's no truly distinguishable color difference. There are 4 subspecies of the black rhino. There's the South Central, then the Southwestern, the East African, and the West African. And basically the main difference is where they habitat, where they live, what type of temperate zone that they're in. Adults stand about 60 to 70 inches high, and they're about 11 to 13 inches in length. These guys are they're really a lot smaller than your white rhino, as your white rhino weighed in about 4,000 pounds. The max of these guys are going to be about 3,000 pounds. And then your females are actually going to be smaller than that. Your Indian rhinoceros is also, another name is considered the great one-horned rhinoceros. It only has 1 horn, and it is large as the African white rhino. They have a thick silver brown skin folds in the shoulder, the back, and the rump. This kind of gives them that more armored appearance. They stand about 6 feet tall, with a length around 10 to 13 feet long. Then you have your Javan rhino, which is actually your most endangered large mammal in the world. They are closely related, but larger than your Indian rhino. So adults are about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds. These guys also have a single horn, and they are hairless, and their gray skin folds into the folds, which again, like the other one, does give them that more armored appearance. Your Siberian rhino they're actually your smallest and the one most with the most amount of hair. They'll be found in high altitudes of Borneo and Sumatra. Due to habitat, they're actually become fewer and fewer. They usually are only going to be about 1,500 pounds compared to what your largest rhino is going to be is about 5,000. So big difference in their sizes. Then we're done with that class. So your next class is going to be your even-toed ungulates. The name comes from artos, which means even, and dactylos, which means finger-toed, which these guys are going to either walk on 2 or 4 hooves. They are your most successful group of large herbivores that actually walk the earth today. They are the 5th largest order of mammals. They are native to every geographic region. They are all over the world, from the highest point to the equator to the lowest point of the equator. There's approximately 440 even-toed ungulate members in this order. It's amazing just the order that they're in is their size, the form, the dietary preferences, and the climate tolerance that they can all go from. You have your largest body mass from 400 kilograms to the 2 that is going to be in your hippos to your 2 kilograms that are going to be in your mouse deer. And your height ranges from 5 meters in giraffes to 23 centimeters in the mouse deer. And this comes from Grimm's Mech in 1990. So your first is going to be your pronghorn. Pronghorns are a mammal that is unique to North America. An American goat antelope, which is a very interesting thing just for the fact that they are not even related to the antelope or into the goat class. They are their own entirely different class. They can run about 35 miles for about 4 miles, or 42 miles per hour for about 1 mile. They're built for speed but not for jumping, so it's very common. It's not very uncommon to see them go run under fences, and that's actually how they'll get hurt most of the time. Some diseases that these guys can get is going to be, it's called EHD. I'm sorry for butchering this, but it's epizootic hemorrhagic disease, which is caused by which is transmitted by insects. They can die off in massive die-offs in Wyoming, but some of these produce antibodies to these viruses and survive. This is from Bayers in 1997. So next class you have is you're going to be your bovine deer. There's over 135 species between them. It would take me all day to go through every single one. So your main ones kind of are you're going to be your bison, your goats, your sheep, or your cattle, and then lastly your sheep. Bison, they're also called buffalo. There are 2 types. You have your American bison, and then you have your European bison. These guys can actually grow over 6 feet tall, and they're usually found in the grasslands and open savannas of North America, but most now, since they are a little bit more in the endangered species, they're actually found in protected lands and in the western United States and Canada. Herds in the Yellow National Park and Wood Buffalo Park, and that is in Canada and then Wyoming. That's per the National Bison Association in 2002. Bison are one of my favorite animals just for the fact that I've actually got to work with a bison, a former school that I went to. Our mascot was the buffalo, and I actually ran with a buffalo. Ran right next to them. They do have horns, and those horns hurt when they hit you. But they're some of the most, unless you get them mad, they are some of the most docile creatures you'll actually ever meet. They're amazing in every such way. Their breeding season starts in late June and goes through September, and their gestation lasts about 285 days. Another subfamily is goats. There are 3 different types of goats. You have your dairy, your meat, and your fiber. Goats can live and survive in almost any type of location or climate. They are your smallest domesticated ruminants. They weigh from 20 pounds to 18 inches to your biggest, which is going to be 250 to 42. Diseases that are associated with goats are These diseases are associated with the abortion in goats, and they're high concentrated at the time that animals give that they give birth. People who are pregnant or with a chronic condition should actually consult their physician before they actually work with these types of animals. Then you have cattle. Cattle are actually among the most important domesticated animals. They are cattle did not originate from the name. It derives from a Latin name. These guys are used for everything you can think of, from meat, hide, bull riding, anything like that. Anthrax is a big disease that they have. It's a form of spores that survive over years in the environment, and actually cattle, sheep, and goats are the most highest risk for anthrax disease. But other farm animals, as well as wildlife and humans, can actually get this disease. Then you have goats. Goats are raised as farm animals. You can have them for many different reasons. They live in steep, rocky areas in the American Northwest. They can grow from 53 pounds to your biggest one that can weigh about 250 to 300 pounds. Then you have family comedian, which includes your camels and your llamas. One is found in North Africa, and the other one is actually found in Central Asia. You have 2 different types. You have your 1-humped camel and you have your 2-humped camel. Llamas and alpacas are actually sometimes considered to be the same species. Many both have been deprived from for thousands of years to domestication. Camels, there are 3 species known. In camels, there are 3 species. You have the Arabian camel, the domesticated Bactrian camel, and the wild Bactrian camel. These guys are known for going days without water. It is known that they can actually go up to 5 months. Actually, they can go up to 10 months without drinking water at all, if not, because some of the food that they can gets enough from it. Llamas are from South Africa and members of the camel family, but they don't have humps at all. They are found in Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, and Chile. Llamas are actually really kind of considered as pack animals. They're used also as a food source, wool, hides, and they will actually use their feces for fuel. Another family is going to be your deer family. This family consists of 23 different genera with 47 species. The antlers are actually considered really as their characteristics of this family, along with having long, powerful legs. Some deer is their largest deer is actually a moose, which stands about 6 feet tall, or actually 8 feet, and can weigh up to 1,800. Then you have elk, which is about 6 feet and weigh about 550 to 900 pounds. And then you have just your white-tailed deer are the ones that you tend to go and hunt. Then you have your family giraffe, or giraffe, which is your giraffe and opity. There are two different types that are restricted to sub-Saharan Africa. Giraffes are larger. They can weigh about 250 to 1,500. They have long, narrow head, thin lips, and long tongues. Their tongues can actually reach about 21 inches, and they're actually going to be your tallest mammals in the world. Their legs alone are taller than most humans, which stand about 6 feet. Their lungs can hold up to 12 gallons of air. A full-grown giraffe stands about 15 to 18 feet tall, and males tend to be larger than females, which the average weight about 2,000 pounds. Giraffe skin disease is a disorder that causes crust lesions on the legs of giraffes. It was recorded 12 years ago in the national park in central Tanzania. It affects some giraffes, but not... and it makes it look like they've been scratching or rubbing against branches, and this is per Lindsay in 2018. You have okiads, which are forest giraffes or zebra giraffes. They kind of look like a difference between zebras and a giraffe, or a zebra and a deer. They're native to the Dominican Republic of the Congo in South Africa. These guys are actually considered are endangered. There's not known how many actually are still surviving, but it is known that they are declining. You have family, you have your hippos. These guys, there's two different types. You have your pygmy hippo, and then you have which usually stand about 5 feet tall, and then you have your river hippo. River hippos tend to be more of what you're going to see, and they are the ones that kind of have a frog-like appearance on the head, where they can be submerged completely in water and still look around. You have family. Mostly it contains your musk deer, and they are found in Central and North Asia, along with forest and bushlands. They're also classified as a subfamily of Cerdias, yet there is major differences. Both sexes of the musk deer lack antlers, so they are actually considered their own personal family. Musk deer have been hunted for their scent glands, which are commonly used for perfumes. These glands can fetch up to $40,000 per kilogram on the black market. It's rumored that ancient royals wore the scent of musk deer, and that is from DeBlaze in 2001. You have your Saduds, which are your pigs. There are about 19 different species in this family. Your two common ones are going to be your wild boars, which is going to be your common wild pig. In Texas, that's a big issue, and they get hunted. Then you have your domesticated pigs. These are actually found all over the world except Antarctica. They are used for showing, for food. Some use the tiny little pygmy pigs. They get used for pets in a house. You have your javelin or your skunk pig, which they're about medium-sized pig. These are found through Central and South Africa. There are 3 living types that are found in the western United States, through Central America and South Triad. They have a wiry peppered black, gray, and brown hair with light colored collar around the shoulders. Then your last family is actually going to be your chevrons, known as the mouse deer. The word chevron comes from a French chevron meaning grade, kid, or fawn. These guys only weigh between 1.1 pounds to 17 pounds. They have small heads. They have backs that are round and somewhat higher towards their root end. Their ears are covered with hair. And they have a 4-chambered stomach to ferment through plant foods. Yet the 3rd chamber is actually poorly developed, though they mostly feed on plant material. Some of your water chevrons will actually eat insects and crabs, and they're found in South Asia and Central Africa. They live in rainforests, lowlands, and mangrove forests. And these guys are not very sociable. It's very hard to get a study on them just for the fact that when they feel frightened, they jump and run. They are only really sociable during mating season. And that is the end. Thank you guys so much. I tried to post one earlier and it didn't work. So I had to do it right before work. So have a good night, guys.